All right, my friends, you may have heard about this spiritual awakening that's going on. And in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my spiritual awakening. And some of the questions that we will answer are, so what is a spiritual awakening and what causes it? And if you're having a spiritual awakening, do you need a guru or a teacher or teachers? What's the dark night of the soul? And is there a downside to the whole thing? And if so, what does that mean? And does it all end up in bliss? First, I want to talk about a lot of stuff that people are saying about a spiritual awakening and what it is. And a lot of it's true, some of it's not true, or some of it's just an individualized experience to that person or some person's experience. So let's get a couple things out of the way, first of all. Okay, no two spiritual awakenings are exactly the same. There may be some common elements in the two with each other. However, everybody has their own individual experience depending on where they're at, or what I call in their spiritual evolution. And so the first thing you need to know is a spiritual awakening is not a one-time event. It may seem like that, but there was a lot of things leading up to it. Now, I suppose it's possible somebody could have that event without a lot of things leading up to it, but generally there's things leading up to it. And a few of the things that lead up to it are a personal desire to know, who am I, why am I here, and where am I going? The age-old questions that mankind has been trying to answer, forever, for a millennia. There's several things that can cause a spiritual awakening. And one of those is a crisis of some sort. It could be a crisis of faith, or a crisis of relationship, or an accident of some type, or some type of serious injury, and even an NDE, or a near-death experience. If you've read or listened to any near-death experiences, and I've listened to hundreds and read of hundreds, these people come back changed. They are a changed person, because they have a whole new perspective on life. When people become spiritually awake and they start questioning their reality and their values that they've been taught since they were children, and oftentimes it's religious values, and those begin to crumble, they stop making sense, they begin to seriously question the purpose of life, their life, where they're going, what they're doing, and so on. And often people decide that they need to follow some guru or some teacher. Now, a guru or a teacher can be helpful, but the problem is that people oftentimes become devoted to that guru or teacher, especially if they've come out of a religion. Sometimes they'll fall right into almost like another religion with a new age guru or teacher, or somebody that they feel resonates with them. Now, there's nothing wrong with following a teacher to a certain degree, but never put your devotion into that teacher, because they have their experience for them, and they may teach you some stuff that resonates with you and that helps you move along the path. However, to take everything that they say as gospel truth without question, especially, is wrong, and that will lead you astray, so to speak. It will lead you down a side path. When people begin to wake up, they often feel lost and disoriented. That's because their beliefs and their mores, their spiritual and even moral and mental views begin to crumble, because they stop making sense, because people are questioning them. Okay? And that's a good thing to question. Question everything, I say. Question everything. Don't take anybody's word for it. And the key is to go within and see how it resonates with truth for you. Now, that's not always foolproof, because people take their emotions for some higher spiritual knowledge sometimes. We all do that, and I am no better than anybody else. When you enter into this period where you feel lost and disoriented, this usually leads up to what is often called the dark night of the soul. That's where it all crumbles, and you feel totally like you're blown in the wind, because everything you believed, you feel like was a lie. And it's not that it all was a lie, but some of it, you got to look at it like this. It's like a baby story that you were told that got you by until you got to this point where you said, wait a minute, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be more to life than this. There's got to be more than, hey, where's the next party, or let's go to the next concert or do the next fun thing. So, but here's the key, or at least one of the keys is, you still live in this 3D world, so to speak, and you have to balance the two. Sometimes people think, oh, I've had the spiritual awakening, I'm beyond all that, I'm beyond duality, and nothing matters now. Well, that's not true, because you chose to come here and experience what you are not, so to speak. And I like to describe it as, and this is why we're here. This is one of the main reasons we're here, my friends. I like to describe it as, you can't appreciate sitting in a nice, warm, cozy house with a roaring fire, sipping your favorite hot drink, relaxing and enjoying friends and family, unless you've actually been out in the bitter cold before. So consider this experience sometimes being out in the bitter cold, although it can be enjoyable. Another analogy that I like to use is life is like a gym. Okay, you know there's going to be pain and suffering in there, but if you go experience it and do it, you're going to be stronger for it. The dark night of the soul can last about 3 days usually. It can be longer or it can be quicker. I guess it really depends. Again, it's an individual experience. And then when you come out of it, you're a changed person and you begin to look for the so-called truth. And you'll get this from reading books, listening to other spiritual teachers, and from past to present, and so on. And this is where the guru trap sometimes comes in for people. It's fine to listen. In fact, you need to listen and listen to what other people have to say. Don't be devoted to that person as your guru or teacher or spiritual leader, because they're not any better than you. They might just be a little bit, a couple steps ahead on the path than you, and you can learn from everybody. The other thing too is not to put anybody down who you don't agree with. So you say you run across some spiritual teacher, some of their stuff is resonating with you, and then they say something that just totally blows you out of the water. And you're like, oh, that person's wrong. I'm not listening to anything they say. Don't fall into that trap either, because some of the stuff that they say might be true, but everybody has their illusions and their blind spots. We all do, all of us. Me, myself, and I, and you, okay? Everybody has them. So take the truth, take what's true or what resonates as truth to you, and leave the rest. And don't judge others and don't denigrate others because some of their teachings don't align with what you believe or feel, okay? When you start your spiritual awakening path, you will be less inclined to judge at some point. Although sometimes in the beginning, you seem to judge everything because all the stuff you believed wasn't true, and so you'll run across people, especially like on the internet, that are talking about those things that, and you used to feel that way too, and you'll kind of look down on them because, oh yeah, they're not as advanced as me. Don't do that either. You got to remember that you were there too, okay? Now myself, I came through a very traditional and authoritarian Christian discipline, if you will. And so I had a lot of beliefs, but luckily I was somebody from an early age who questioned everything, and it got me in a lot of trouble when I was a little kid, because I questioned. I didn't want to just sit down and shut up and listen. I wanted to know why, okay? Why do we do it that way? Why do we see it that way? And especially from my era, it was a sit down and shut up and listen and quit hassling the teacher, in school and in Sunday school and in other things. But even as an adult, it's gotten me in trouble too, because I won't just accept anything off the cuff usually. I got to question it, and that's a good thing. That's how you learn. And in our society and culture, there's a lot of things you're not supposed to question, but that's breaking down if you'll look around you. When you begin to do this, you may lose friends and family and acquaintances. You may end up losing your job or quitting your job, realizing, hey, I wasn't born to, work for somebody and just pay bills, okay? And a lot of young people who are coming in now are having that problem, and of course they get branded as lazy, and there may be a few are, but they know something's wrong with the system, so to speak, and that things need to change. Luckily, change is coming slowly, but it's resisted. People don't like change. They like to be familiar. The old saying, you prefer the devil you know than to one that you don't know. So this is all part of the spiritual progress of humanity, in my opinion, individually and collectively. Okay, it's as the scriptures would put it, the carnal nature versus the divine nature. All right, the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder. That's what we're here doing. We're here to bring our animal nature into subjection to the divine nature, and that's when you become fully spiritually awake, if there is such a thing. And I'm not sure there is such a thing. There may be, like in this life, but I think that we're ever progressing. That's my opinion on it anyways. You also may notice that you're more empathetic, or you become an empath. You start feeling people's emotions, and that can be a good and a bad thing. I happen to be an empath, and I didn't know I was an empath, and I've been an empath since I was a child. And I thought all those feelings were mine until I discovered that they weren't all mine and that they were other people's feelings. And then I learned how to block out feelings when I didn't want to feel other people's feelings. Yet I don't always do it, and I start feeling all these feelings, and I go, crap, why? And then I realize, oh yeah, and so then I use my techniques for blocking it out, and maybe I'll do another video on that at some point. But you can look up on the internet how to control or block other people's feelings if you're an empath. You might have clairvoyance or healing gifts and so on. You've always had them. They just become more prominent, or this brings it out. Everybody has all the gifts. As the scriptures teach, we are children of our Father in heaven, so to speak, or God, or Source, if you will, and we have all the same attributes of our Father, our Creator, if you will. They're just dormant in us mainly because we don't believe or know. We don't even know we have them. And when we do understand that we have them, we have all of this programming that we've been brought up as a kids, that you can't do that, that's impossible, it defies the laws of physics, and so on and so forth. Well, I'm here to tell you folks, I have lived a whole lifetime proving the experts wrong on one thing or another, okay? And which is why I've always questioned everything. And I've seen and participated in some things that there's just no earthly explanation for, okay? And some of you probably have too. And when you start realizing this is part of the awakening. The other thing that happens is when you accept it, because sometimes you're resistant to it, some people are resistant to it, but once you accept that you're seeing things differently and you're seeing a bigger picture, so to speak, of the world, and it's not just the 3D world that you were brought up on, you get excited, especially if you have some gifts that start coming forth and you want to share it with others, all right? That's when you'll find a bunch of resistance, and sometimes you'll lose friends and everything because they think you're freaking nuts. That's okay, but you'll learn that you got to let people be who they are. Another thing that happens is you get a sense of mission, a purpose in your life. Sometimes this takes a while. Sometimes people right away know exactly what they're supposed to do. Like this guy, you may have heard of Matthias D. Stefano. I don't know if I'm saying his name right or not. But he resisted his mission until he got older. And people do that, like I said, everybody's different. Especially nowadays, we have a lot of people, a lot of the younger generations are from a child having, they're experiencing gifts and things, and they don't understand it, and neither do their parents. But then again, they chose to come to the family that they came to for specific reasons. They may have needed resistance in the family, because you'll get family members, like Matthias's father thinks it's all bullshit. Then who can blame him, Anyways, you'll find that in your own family and friends and circle of friends, and sometimes those relationships will dissolve and you'll create new relationships. But there's a period of time there too when some of these relationships might dissolve, where you feel lonely. But that's when you need to go within. Okay, there's a simple meditation that you can do, and you can do any kind of meditation you want. This is just my suggestion, and this will help connect you with the divine. And the first thing you can do is close your eyes and then think about, and look at your eyelids, and who is it that's looking at your eyelids? And you can ask yourself, who am I? And you can just keep repeating that over as a mantra, sort of, if you like. Or you can repeat any kind of mantra that you want, like I am love, or whatever you decide. But focus on your breath while you're doing this, and focus and let your thoughts come through your mind. So the main idea in most meditations is to quiet your thoughts. I'm not sure you can ever quiet your thoughts, at least that's my experience. But what happens is if you can find the gaps in between those thoughts, so to speak, eventually those thoughts, they will quiet. They're not actually quiet, they're going on, but you become oblivious to them, so to speak. So I'm not sure that thought stream can ever be shut off, but you can you can tune it out, so to speak, I guess, is how I see it. I could be wrong though, or like I said, everybody's different. So usually this is quite the paradigm shift, if you will, and people think, wow, this is it, this is the big change. Well, I'm here to tell you there will be others. You'll come to a point where some of the things that you picked up and resonated with will not seem to make sense anymore, or you'll question it deeply, and you'll have another one. But none of them are as big as the first one, or as sometimes they can be devastating to some people. I was looking at other videos on this topic, just to see what people were saying about it. And there's one, I didn't watch the video, but the title was "My Spiritual Awakening Ruined My Life." Yeah, it'll ruin the life that you're used to if you want to look at it that way. But it's a step forward to see the bigger picture. Some people don't want to be unplugged from the matrix. If you remember that line. Probably the biggest and most important thing is the sense of mission or purpose in your life. And again, some people take a long time. Some people may still be trying to figure out, well, what is my mission or what is my purpose? And I did that. I struggled with that for a long time. I had things that I thought were my mission and purpose, and I think that they were related, but they were secondary to it. So one of the things that I tell people, if they ask that, how do I figure out what my mission or purpose in life is? So, well, if you had all the money and time in the world, none of that mattered. You didn't have to worry about making a living or supporting or anybody else or whatever. It was all just taken care of somehow, or you just had enough money to take care of it all, or whatever the situation. Well, what would you be doing with your time? And some of the younger people say, well, I'd be skateboarding or surfing or riding motorcycle. Okay, that could be related to your purpose. It could be, honestly. So, like Mr. Beast, if you're familiar with YouTube at all, Mr. Beast, I believe, is if not he's one of the biggest YouTubers ever. Millions and millions of followers and views and so on and so forth. Anyways, he's a great philanthropist. But when he was a kid, all he did was he played around with YouTube, making YouTube videos, and his mom wanted him to, go to school and go to college, get a job, because you're not going to make any money on that YouTube thing, right? Well, now he's a multi-millionaire and he's a huge philanthropist. He does a lot of good things and helps a lot of people. And that was probably his original purpose, but YouTube was the vehicle that got him there. So if you're a parent and you're chastising your kid for playing video games too much, be careful. You might be related to his mission. Or ride motorcycles, or riding skateboards, People can make millions of dollars doing that and use that money for good. So I'm not one of these people who puts down rich people. Yeah, there's some evil rich people out there doing evil things with their money, so to speak. But most rich people earned their money. They didn't inherit it or get it illegally. The vast majority of them earned it. So anyways, if you are struggling, if you're in the middle of a spiritual awakening and you're struggling and you're feeling down about it, or you're in the middle of the dark night of the soul, just know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And probably the biggest thing is to accept it. Accept what is in the moment and then move forward from there. I know that's easy to say. Let me tell you a little bit about my experience. I had been on a path of spiritual enlightenment, I guess, if you will. And it took me through Christianity and various modalities or whatever you want to call them of spirituality. Anyways, apparently I was getting off the track, even though I seemed to be headed in that direction somewhat, because it took a crisis to really give me that dark night of the soul and wake me up to a greater reality. And I'm going to conclude with this. My greater reality is that we need to love one another. Wow, where have we heard that before? We need to love and care for one another. That doesn't mean you got to let people walk all over you and do whatever they want. There's a balance there, and it doesn't mean you can never get angry. It doesn't mean you're not subject to the whims of the carnal nature, this life, or the flesh, whatever you want to call it. You still have those. I still have those. I still get angry. I find myself, I have a lifelong habit of cussing when I'm working on stuff and it's not going my way. I do it less and I catch myself sooner, but I still do it. So gee, does that count me out as some spiritual guru? And I'm not trying to be a spiritual guru. I'm saying that more as a joke. But some people think, well, if you're spiritual, you got to be perfect. Well, there is no perfect, and we're not here to be perfect. We're here to experience imperfection so that we can appreciate perfection when we get to the other side. I firmly believe that that's the main reason that we're here. But everybody has their own journey to go on and their own things to learn one by one. So God or Source is experiencing himself or herself through us. We are what I call unique expressions of the one true God, or the Source, if you will. So anyways, my friends, let me know in the comments what you think. And if you want to know more on this subject or any other subjects that you want me to talk about. All right. Peace out.